Today we're going to be talking about coping with grief. Now, before we start, I wanted to say that this presentation is dedicated in loving memory of those lost at Sandy Hook Elementary 10 years ago today on 12/14/2012 when there was a Sandy Hook and we lost 20 children, 20 beautiful children, who first graders, and 6 educators and support staff. So I thought we could pause and remember them.
Before we go to break, we want to take a quick minute to reflect and remember all 26 people who lost their lives 10 years ago at Sandy Hook Elementary.
So let's just take a moment of silence in memory of the 26 angels of Sandy Hook.
Before we go to break, we want
So we'll start by saying death ends a life, not a relationship. And this quote comes from Mitch Albom in his book Tuesdays with Maury. Just because somebody's not with us physically doesn't mean they're not with us at all. They're always going to be with us as long as we talk about those we love. And we might talk about them, have their pictures, remember them, honor them. No one's ever really gone.
It's okay to not be okay. Why it's okay to not be okay when you're grieving. Grief is an emotional response, deep, sorrowful feelings we naturally experience after a loss. Although most of us associate grieving as a state we experience following the death of a loved one, there are various forms of loss that can lead to grief: ended relationships, health issues, relocation, job loss, unfulfilled dreams, or missing a beloved pet are other types of loss that can lead to intense feelings of sadness.
So any loss can cause grief, including loss of friendship. So if you broke up with a friend that you were friends with them for a long time and that friendship ended, there's a grief process. Loss of health. So if you get diagnosed with a disease like cancer, it's big, life changing, and people go into depression, and that's okay. They need extra. They might up. Death of loved one, loss of a pet. Losing a pet is tough, and they're members of the families. Divorce and loss of financial stability. So that might mean if someone lost a job or if they invested, they lost a lot of money in a bad investment. Losing a pet is really tough. This dog is a pet of Kim Butts, who's one of our supervisors, and her beloved dog, Lena, who she lost this year. And it's hard to lose a pet. So here are some ways to cope with the loss of a pet. Memorialize your pet. Some people have their pet buried at a pet cemetery, so they have a monument they can visit. Create a scrapbook of pictures. Read about pet loss and grief. Connect with others who have lost a pet. Talk with a trusted friend or family member. Write your pet a letter. Make time to remember your pet on significant dates. Attend a pet loss support group. This can be a group that's in person or online. Give yourself permission, time, and space to grieve. It's okay not to be okay. Speak with a therapist if you need to. And never say to somebody who lost a pet that, oh, she's just a dog or just a cat or just a guinea pig. It's not just anything. It's a member of the family. And saying that really minimizes their loss. So grief is not a straightforward process. So on the left is what we think the grief process looks like. But in reality, it's very messy. And we can go back to different steps in the grief process, even years later. And sometimes natural supports and coping mechanisms may not be enough to help you get through with your grief. And in this case, it's okay. And you might want to see a therapist to help you learn to cope. And there's absolutely no shame in going to therapy, and it can be very helpful. There's also no shame in taking medication to help you manage your mental health symptoms. If you're depressed and it's to the point where you're not living your life, you're not eating, you're using bad coping mechanisms, you're not going to work, or it's affecting your work, it means you might need help. And that help might come in the form of medication, and that's perfectly okay. And your doctor might be able to prescribe mental health meds or can refer you to a special doctor called a psychiatrist who can find and prescribe the right medications to help you. And here are some signs that you might need to seek professional help. If your issues with grief are interfering with daily life. So if you're having trouble sleeping and you're not eating and it's getting in the way of your work, then you might need help. And it's okay, by the way, to ask for a few days off after a loss in order to be able to grieve, to go to the funeral, to do all of that. It's okay to take some time off of work. Your job might offer leave for that issue. If you turn to dangerous coping mechanisms, so if you turn to alcohol or drugs or cigarettes to cope with your grief, that's not okay. And then you really need to get professional help. If your family and friends are worried about you and you've tried everything else, you've exhausted all your other options. How to find a good therapist. And you can do an online search to see what therapists are near you that take your insurance. Ask your primary care doctor to refer you. If you're at DDS or DSS, you can ask your case manager if they know of any good therapists. In fact, that's how I found my therapist, is through my DSS case manager, because she knew of my current therapist, because my current therapist also runs a social skills group that's affiliated with DSS. And so my case manager knew her, and she got me her contact information. You could also call 211 to get referred to a therapist. This is a recipe for a good therapist. And you need all of these things in order to for it to be a good therapist. So knowledge, academic degree. So a therapist should either have a master's in psychology or a master's in clinical mental health counseling. So you might see someone who's a doctor, like a PsyD, or just a MSW, which is a social worker, master's in social work. Or in my case, my therapist is a LPC. She's a licensed professional counselor. Skill, ability to listen deeply without judging. Training. So in order to become a therapist, they have to go through a supervised clinical residency after they go to college or as part of their master's degree program, or they work under supervision of a therapist and learn the skills that they need. Character. It's really important to have a therapist with empathy, wisdom, and compassion. Certification. So, in order to be a practicing therapist here in the state of Connecticut, or really anywhere, they have to be certified and licensed. And relationship with you. That's the most important. Do you feel like you can talk to them? Are they a good listener? Do they understand you? No, there are other forms of therapy that don't involve sitting in a chair and talking. Because when we think of therapy, we might have the image of someone sitting in an office and talking with you. But there are other kinds of therapies that work. So, pet therapy is one of my favorites. This can be arranging a visit with therapy animals or spending time at a farm or a barn with therapy animals like horses or cows. So, these little pup doggies in the picture are Gizmo and his brother Gadget, and they're therapy dogs here in Connecticut. And they have a Facebook page. It's Gizmo's Friends, and they offer visits. They can come out and visit with you. Come to if you're a provider, they can come out and do a visit, and they'll just cuddle up with you and comfort you. And then this is a new form of therapy, cow hugging therapy, and it's what it is hugging a cow, and it's very therapeutic. An art therapy. That's working with an art therapist to use art to express your emotions and learn to cope. I've actually done it and it was very helpful for me. And music therapy is the use of music as a form of therapy to accomplish mental health goals. We're going to learn more about therapy dogs.
I noticed with both of them that they are in tune to people's emotions.
As the bell rings, it's a mad dash through the halls, but students and teachers need to watch their step so they can spot one or two single-digit pound pups making their daily visits to their classmates and colleagues. Meet Gizmo and his little brother Gadget. These dogs have very important jobs, serving as advocates for mental health awareness and spreading joy all throughout Manchester High School.
They seem to approach people who are maybe having kind of a tough day, so I just put them into training classes.
These forever friends allow for students and staff to distress by petting, talking,
And I like getting pet behind the ears, all dogs do.
and even doing work while accompanied by the dogs.
I have ADD or, so I fidget a lot and I play with my fingers, and so petting an animal helps me relax a bit, and it kind of feels a little less overwhelming.
Gizmo and Gadget are not only a support system to members of the MHS community, but also to people across Connecticut.
Gizmo is the state of Connecticut's mental health and suicide prevention mascot through the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services and Connecticut United Way. They put out a book where he's the narrator and he walks children through the steps of caring for their mental health. It's been used especially now post-pandemic.
COVID-19 and the toll it's taken has allowed for the furthering of the discussion around mental health, both pets looking to do their part each day.
How can you not love them? Like they're
Given the current state of our world, some days might be rough, but anything is possible with these sweet boys. To learn more, visit Gizmo's website at gizmoformentalhealth.org. From Manchester, this has been Emily Madden in Gizmo reporting.
One of the things they did actually for Sandy Hook was that Sandy Hook and Robb Elementary was that they brought in therapy dogs to help the families, the children that were grieving. It doesn't have to be a trained therapy dog either. It can be a pet dog. Or if you don't have a dog, you can have a therapy dog like Gizmo come visit you. Or you can visit a friend who has a friend or family member who has a dog or a cat. Even a kitty cat to cuddle with, they help too. So these are 5 action steps for helping someone in emotional pain, because suicide is a major public health concern and a leading cause of death in the United States. Suicide affects people of all ages, genders, races, and ethnicities. Suicide is complicated and tragic, but can be preventable. Knowing the warning signs for suicide and how to get help can help save lives. Here are 5 steps that you can take to be the one to help someone in emotional pain. First step, ask. So ask them, are you thinking about killing yourself? It's not an easy question, but studies show that asking at-risk individuals if they're suicidal does not increase suicides or suicidal thoughts. So if you ask them, you're not putting the idea in their head. 2, keep them safe. Reducing a suicidal person's access to highly lethal items or places is an important part of suicide prevention. While this is not always easy, asking if the at-risk person has a plan and removing or disabling the lethal means can make a difference. Be there. Listen carefully and learn what the individual is thinking and feeling. Research suggests acknowledging and talking about suicide may in fact reduce rather than increase suicidal thoughts. 4, help them connect. Save the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline number. You can call or text 988 and the crisis text number 741-741 in your phone so that they're there if you need them. You can also help make a connection with a trusted individual, like a family member, friend, spiritual advisor, or mental health professional. Also, here in Connecticut, you can call 211 to get crisis support. And stay connected. Staying in touch after a crisis or after being discharged from care can make a difference. Studies have shown the number of suicide deaths goes down when someone follows up with the at-risk person. So give them a call, ask them how they're doing, be there for them. So these are some crisis resources and warning signs of suicide. So if someone talks about killing themselves, feeling hopeless, being a burden, feeling trapped, and unbearable pain, if you see changes in mood, depression, anxiety, loss of interest, irritability, humiliation, shame, agitation, anger, changes in behavior, increased drug or alcohol use, isolating from family and friends, changes in sleep, if they're saying goodbye, giving possessions, aggression and fatigue. If you or someone you know are showing these signs, please call 211 here in Connecticut or 988 anywhere in the United States to get free and confidential support from a mental health professional. The service is free, confidential, and available 24/7, 365 days a year. You can also text HOME to 741-741 to connect with a volunteer crisis counselor via text message. Remember, if you or someone you know are having thoughts of hurting yourself or others, go to your nearest emergency room. This is a medical emergency. It's better to go to the ER and be in a safe place and get stabilized than be home and scared and unstable. Remember, there's other solutions other than suicide. Remember, you're loved and there's hope for you. Suicide is a very permanent solution to a temporary problem. There are other solutions out there.
Hi, I'm Zach Williams, son of the late Robin Williams. While the holidays are a joyful time of year, they can also remind us of what we have lost, who won't be with us at the table, or what isn't going right in our lives when the world around us seems to be full of cheer. I'm here to tell you that there is help and there is hope. If you or someone you know is having thoughts of suicide or experiencing a mental health or substance use crisis, the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline connects you to trained crisis counselors 24/7. You are not alone in crisis. Call or text 988 or chat at 988lifeline.org.
Carol's here. Sometimes you might need to take medication for your mental health if your mental health symptoms are making it hard to function. And then some examples of mental health medication are antidepressants, antipsychotics, and mood stabilizers. And you can work with your doctor to figure out which meds and what doses work best to help you. Always take your medication as instructed by your doctor. And this is important, never stop taking meds without your doctor's knowledge because some medications have very strong withdrawal symptoms and you could actually start feeling sick from not taking medication. And remember, there's no shame in taking medication. It's not a sign of weakness. On the contrary, it's a sign of strength that you're strong enough to know that you need help and you're doing things to help yourself. There's no shame in taking medication for any health issue. Now we're going to talk about support from spiritual connections, and I love this picture. Your religious community is a great source of support during times of grief. Reach out to your clergy person, to your rabbi, your imam, your priest, your reverend, if you're struggling. They can come out and visit you and pray with you. They can also get people from your religious communities to support you, bring in meals, visit with you. In the Jewish community, we have a wonderful tradition that we do when someone passes away, which is called sitting Shiva, which is sitting with the grieving people for 7 nights following the death, and to make sure that the individual is not alone. And believing that your loved one is healed and with God, and that you will be reunited someday is comforting. Some days when I really miss my brother, that thought keeps me going. I know that he's in heaven with my grandmother. They're taking care of each other, and I'll see him again someday. Now we're gonna watch a video of a beautiful prayer in Hebrew that we say after somebody dies. And the English translation is on the page.
יתגדל ויתקדש מרבה בעלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי בחיי חום וביום חול וחיי לכל בית ישראל בגלה ובזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעולמי עלמיא יתברך 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 וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי קודשה בריחו לילה ולילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמא ואמרו אמן אמן תתקבל צלותון ובאותון דכל בית ישראל קודם אבון דבשמיה ואמרו אמן אמן יהי של אמר רבה מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן אמן עושה שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו
When grieving, you can get support from those who love you, such as family, friends, a pet. You could go and talk to your families and friends. You can get support from a spiritual connection, like go to church. And you can get support from a licensed mental health professional, like a psychologist or a psychiatrist.
So it's important to take care of yourself while grieving. So here are some ways to take care of yourself. And remember, it's okay not to be okay. Cry. Honor the feelings. Whatever coming up is valid. And crying does not make you weak. Take a break from news and social media because that can be overwhelming. One of my favorite exercises to do when I'm overwhelmed is through grounding. Something you can see, something you can hear, something you can touch around you. Deep breaths, stretch, release tension. Maybe do some yoga. Put thoughts on paper, write a letter. Physical comfort, give someone a hug. And it doesn't have to be a person. You could hug a teddy bear. You could hug your cat or your dog or cuddle a guinea piggy. Light a candle, pray, meditate. One of my favorite Jewish traditions that we do when we're mourning is we light a candle. And then every year the anniversary of our loved one's death, which is, in Hebrew we call it our yard site, we light a yard site candle to remember them. Spend time alone in nature. One of the things you could do is go visit them, your loved one, at the cemetery and sit with them, talk with them like you would when they were alive. Remember, they can still hear you. Reach out, connect more with others. Maybe have a friend stay with you. If you live alone and you're grieving and you don't want to be alone, you could stay with a family member or have someone come stay with you so that you're not all alone. Oh, Carol, I'm going to explain it, what grounding is. Because a lot of the time, and I know for me, when I was grieving my grandmother and my brother, we had people in and out of the house during the day, but it was hard in the evenings when everyone went home and it was just me and my parents. And we had to kind of we had to cope. But we stayed together, we talked to each other. And I know at some point I did have a friend come over and spend some time with me.
Because I've never heard of grounding before.
I'll show you. We have extra time. And it's not the kind of grounding that your parents did when you talk back to them. That's a different kind of grounding.
Okay.
It's when you have something physical to hold on to or an activity, Carol, that kind of takes your mind away from it because you're touching, you're feeling, and it's harder for your mind to remember the sorrowful things.
Like something that like a stress ball or something.
It can be a stress ball, or it can be like a horticultural therapist type thing where you are using plants or you're doing an activity or you're creating something, even in arts and crafts type class, something where you are kind of touching, feeling, and experiencing with your senses. And it kind of takes you away. It brings you into the moment.
Oh, I've just never heard of that before.
Okay, so here's
thanks.
And wait, I'm on Teams. Here's an example of grounding. Since we're ahead of schedule, I can show you.
The 5-4-3-2-1 grounding exercise helps us get out of our heads by using our senses to reconnect with the outside world and the present moment. So we're going to look at 5 things, touch 4 things, listen to 3 things, smell 2 things, and taste 1 thing. So start by looking around you and naming 5 things that you can see, and say them out loud if you're alone or just silently to yourself. For example, phone, or computer. And now name 4 things that you can feel, like your mouse or phone or your feet on the floor. And now name 3 things that you can hear, like the sound of my voice or some traffic. And now smell the scent of 2 things and name them. Maybe coffee, or the smell of your clothes, or find something near you. Pause the video and go over and smell it. And now taste 1 thing and name it. And if you can't taste anything right now, that's fine. And if you're still feeling anxious or panicky or stuck in your head, take a breath. Inhale and exhale. And maybe stand up and take a few steps. And then repeat this exercise again until you've reconnected with the external world in the present moment.
So that's what grounding is. And YouTube is a great source for this kind of information. You can find meditation on YouTube. You can find different religions explaining their views about death. You could find different kind of meditations, self-hypnosis, a lot of useful stuff. Getting support from loved ones. It's okay to ask for help. Some things that you might want help with are preparing and bringing over meals. Sometimes when you're grieving, the last thing you want to do is cook. Grocery shopping. Errands. Pet care. So you might not be up to walking the dog. So you can ask someone. And if someone around you is grieving, instead of asking, oh, what can I do? Is there any, let me know if there's anything you need. Just do something for them. Bring over a casserole. Offer to go grocery shopping. Offer to run errands. Like if they need something picked up from the drugstore, you can offer to do that for them. Offer to walk their dog. And like I said, if you don't feel like being alone, you can ask a loved one to stay with you. Five ways to help someone who is grieving. Grief belongs to the griever. Everyone experiences grief differently, so follow their lead. Understand that there are good and bad moments, and these will go on. Take care with giving advice and try to avoid comparisons, past or future. Try not to tell them how lucky they were, that they'll love again, or that it'll be better later. Anticipate, don't ask. So don't say, call me if you need anything. Say, I'll bring dinner tonight, or I'll pick up the kids, walk your dog, do whatever else that they need. Don't try to fix the unfixable. You can't take their pain away. And love them. Oh, Carol, you have your hand up?
Yeah, Yana,
Mhm.
Josie is trying to get in this meeting because she wants to be part of it, and she's having a hard time getting into it.
Oh, I emailed her an invitation.
Yeah, but she's having a hard time I was even having a hard time getting in, but I figured it out. Thank you, Rachel.
One thing you can do for somebody who's grieving, or you can, if you're grieving, you can have somebody set this up for you, or you can set it up for yourself. It's something called a meal train. And it's an online service. I believe it's free. And it's when people can sign up to bring over meals. Oh, here's Josie. So say somebody's grieving. One person can sign up to bring them dinner one night. Next night, somebody else can bring them dinner. So these are some things not to say to someone who is grieving. So don't say he would want you to. It was her time. It's been a year. You should be over this by now. There's no timelines. And this is a big one that one of the biggest bold-faced lies that people told me after I lost my brother. He's in a better place. And yes, heaven might be beautiful, but there's no better place for him than with his family. Time will heal this. He lived such a full life in the time that he was given. It's time for you to move on. Again, don't try to fix things. There's no timelines. I know a woman who lost her husband, and within 3 years, she was happily remarried again. Again, no timelines. Don't you think it's time you got over this? You must be devastated. If I lost my son, I would kill myself. Again, it's not something you could say. Oh, thanks, Josie. Welcome. At least you had the chance to say goodbye.
Thank you.
At least she went quite quickly and it was painless. God wanted him back. It's just a part of life. Her work here was done. When you're ready, I have a great gal for you. Again, don't say that. Or your mom, dad would not want you moping around the house like this. It's okay to be not okay. These are the 5 stages of grief, and this was introduced by psychologist Elizabeth Kubler-Ross.
The 5 stages of grief are a way of describing how people may react to a loss. Psychiatrist Elizabeth Kubler-Ross first outlined the stages of grief in the 1960s. She originally used the stages to describe how she saw patients reacting to their own terminal diagnosis. Today we acknowledge these stages as common feelings anyone may experience when grieving any kind of loss, including the death of a loved one.
What are the 5 stages of grief? Denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. We're going to go over in detail.
Denial is a refusal to believe the loss is real. The brain protects itself until it has more time to absorb and process difficult news. Anger may come after we admit the loss actually happened. This emotion can be directed at any number of targets. It may range anywhere from frustration to fury. During the bargaining stage, we attempt to strike a deal with ourselves or a higher power to cope with our pain. Guilt is also common during this stage as we dwell on past events, searching for things we could have done differently. The deep sadness of depression sets in when we realize the loss has really happened and our life is forever changed. This kind of depression is a natural response for most people experiencing loss. It is not a sign of mental illness. Reaching the stage of acceptance doesn't mean our grief is over. We understand the loss has happened and we can't change it. Accepting this doesn't mean we feel good about it. If you're grieving, you may recognize some of these feelings, but you may not be experiencing them in any particular order. The truth is, grief does not always follow a specific path. Your journey might feel more like you're all over the place, and that's okay. The 5 stages of grief aren't directions. They're just a starting point to help you understand some of what you might be feeling as you go through a period of serious change in your life.
So these are the, oh, Carol, you have your hand up? Oh, Carol? Okay, my computer froze. So we're gonna go over the stages of grief in more detail now. First stage is denial, avoidance, confusion, elation, shock, or fear. Second stage is anger, frustration, irritation, and anxiety. The third stage, bargaining, then depression, and acceptance.
Excuse me, Yana.
Yeah.
I just wanted to know what is bargaining.
No, I'm gonna explain it. We're gonna go over everything in detail.
Denial. What is denial? Denial is when the loss doesn't feel real yet. You know that the loss happened, but it doesn't feel like it.
Anger. During this anger stage of grief, you might start asking questions like, why me? Or what did I do to deserve this? You could also feel suddenly angry at inanimate objects, strangers, friends, or family members. Or you might feel angry at life itself. It's not rare to also feel anger toward the situation or person you lost. Rationally, you might understand the person isn't to blame. Emotionally, however, you may resent them for causing you pain or leaving you. And remember, when someone is going through this anger, they might lash out at you, but don't take it personally. They're angry and they're expressing their emotions. They might say things that they don't mean. And then just let them vent, let them have their emotions. Bargaining. Bargaining is a stage of grief that helps you hold on to hope in a situation of intense pain. You might think to yourself that you're willing to do anything and sacrifice everything if your life is restored to how it was before the loss. During this internal negotiation, you could find yourself thinking in terms of what if or if only. What if I did XYZ, then everything will go back to normal? If only I had done something differently to prevent the loss. That's all the if onlys. I went through a lot of this when my brother passed away. It was a lot of what if we were able to get him to America? What if he had come with us to America when he was 19? He might still be here, but you don't know how things would have turned out. And it doesn't help anybody to dwell on the past.
Depression. What is depression? Depression is a mood disorder that causes a persistent feeling of sadness or loss of interest and can interfere with your daily life. If you're grieving and you're depressed and your depression lasts a long time, you should seek help from a licensed professional psychiatrist or psychologist.
Acceptance. Acceptance. It's going to be okay. I can't fight it. I may as well accept it or prepare for it. In this last stage, individuals embrace mortality or inevitable future or that of a loved one or another tragic event.
Grief never ends, and that's okay. When someone you love dies, you grieve the loss forever. Grieving never ends, and that's you have the right to grieve, and you should acknowledge. People should acknowledge your right and your pain openly and embrace your ongoing connection with the person or loved one who died. When grieving, what is a trigger warning? You may well wonder what exactly is meant by grief trigger. The answer is simply anything that brings up a memory or a loss that has happened to you. You might feel okay, then not so okay. Feelings of grief might return on anniversaries of your loved one's death or other specific days throughout the year. These feelings, sometimes called an anniversary reaction, aren't necessarily a setback in the grieving process. They're a reflection that your loved one's life was important to you. There is no rule that says you must be happy on your birthday or New Year's Eve or even any other day for that matter. You're not just mourning the loss of the loved one, you are mourning the way things used to be. Holidays and birthdays are about celebrating the passage of time and about nostalgia and tradition.
It's okay to mention the person that they lost to somebody. You might think, I don't want to trigger them, I don't want to make them sad, but it's okay. They want to hear that person's name. I follow several families of kiddos that died of childhood cancer, and they want to talk about their child. They want to remember their child. It's okay. Don't feel like you don't have to talk about that person. Tips for coping with grief during the holidays. Allow yourself to feel however it is you feel. Be kind to yourself. Do what feels right for you, whether that means spending time alone or with company. If you don't feel like going to a big party or throwing a big party for Christmas or Hanukkah or New Year's, that's okay. Ask for help from friends and family and accept help that comes your way. Avoid comparing your holiday situations to others. Give back to someone else to help take the focus off your own loss. Yes, Josie, I can share it with you. The presentation. One of the things that the parents of the family members of the people that were lost at Sandy Hook did was to start foundations in memory of their loved ones and do activism for gun control to make sure that what happened to them doesn't happen to anyone else, and it helps them to give back. And you don't have to start a foundation, but you can. One of the things you can do is say your loved one died of a certain disease. You can go for like say cancer. You can help the American Cancer Society. Go to cancer awareness walks, fundraise for them. Or if you have a loved one that died of childhood cancer, support childhood cancer awareness, fundraise, do stuff like that in their memory. Join a grief support group. These are some books that can help you when you're grieving. The first one is When Bad Things Happen to Good People by Harold S. Kushner. This book really helped me a lot when I lost my grandmother and brother. And he explains that God doesn't make bad things happen to us. It's okay to be angry, but he explains it's not God's fault. This next book is written by a psychologist. It's Bearing the Unbearable. And this book it's a children's book, but anybody could read it. It's called The Invisible String. And there are grief support groups that you can go to. Bereavement support group for adults meets on select Wednesdays from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. at Day Kimball Hospital in the field conference rooms. And you can call the number for the Hospice and Palliative Care of Northeastern Connecticut for more information. The VNA, the Visiting Nurse Service of Connecticut in Vernon, has a bereavement and grief support group. If your loved one was in a hospice, you can speak to the psychologist or one of the nurses at the hospice that they were at to see if their hospice offers a support group or a social worker that you can talk to. And you can click the link here. Yep, Rachel, I'll send it to you. And this will be up on the DDS website as well. So you can click here. This link will take you to the 211 website, and they'll have a listing of other support groups. There are also online support groups that you can join, and there's a link here for that. Remember, you're not alone. These are some people that we've loved and lost over the years. Varian, do you want to tell everyone about who this gentleman is in the motorcycle?
Yeah, that's my dad. I lost him in February 2014, and he loved riding his motorcycle, and he always took he liked taking pictures on Christmas. So I have a lot of pictures of us on Christmases. He actually used to develop pictures way back in the early 70s, and we like camping, and what else we like doing? We like camping, and I have a lot of good memories of him.
You look just like a Varian.
Oh, thank you.
He'd be very proud of you.
Yeah, he would.
So this gentleman in the middle is my brother, and we lost him back in 2008. He was only 35 years old, and it was hard because I didn't really have a chance to know him that well in my life. What happened was we left for America from the Soviet Union in 1991, and he decided to stay back in Ukraine to get married. So I didn't really have a lot of time with him. And then when I was a teenager, he got sick with liver disease, and we started getting to know each other via Skype, and he was taken right when we were getting to know each other. And unfortunately, we tried to bring him here to America for medical treatment, and he got denied. So fortunately, I never really got to know him that well, and I wish I did have a chance. But the good news is his daughter is now, my niece is now here in America. His wife remarried, and his daughter is now here in America. She arrived, thankfully, before the war got really bad. And I'm very happy that at least she's living his dream of being in America. And then the lady in the black and white picture is my grandmother. She was really the first major loss in my life. And we were really close. We were best friends. And it was tough for me. I actually had a major nervous breakdown after I lost her, because she was one of the people that actually understood me. But life went on. I learned how to cope. One of the things I do to remember her is I wear her necklace, this gold necklace that I have around my neck with the Star of David. This was hers. And I also have her Holocaust survivor testimony. Where I have a digital version of it. So I can listen to her stories and watch her anytime I want to. And I couldn't do that for the first few years because I just got too emotional missing her. But now I can, and it's helpful. Varian, do you have any videos of your dad that you watch?
Not too many videos, but we did spread ashes down at Rocky Neck State Park, and sometimes I go down there and have like a picnic.
That's very nice. I get to visit my grandmother at the cemetery. Unfortunately, my brother is buried in the Ukraine, and I really do want to go back and visit with him in the Ukraine, visit his grave finally. But I can't do that right now because of the war that's going on. But I plan to visit again when things are better in the Ukraine. And it was hard. I'm not gonna lie, it was hard, especially watching my mom go through losing a child. It was really hard. So, are there any people in your lives that you've lost that you miss?
Yeah, I lost my brother last year.
I'm sorry, Josie.
I hear that, Josie.
Josie, I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I lost my brother to COVID last year. And
Oh.
I always wear a necklace with his picture on it. He was just a producer and he loved music, and his favorite music was in 1980s freestyle. And he sings, so you can find him on YouTube and you can hear his music. We're having a memorial. It's hard because I'm for the first time going to Ohio for the holidays, and it's gonna be hard not to have my brother with us. And we're gonna do a memorial on his honor, wear his shirts and let go of balloons. And hear his music maybe, because I have a sister that gets a lot of strokes, so she can't. She's
Oh.
not. She's grieving like us, and she's not ready to hear his voice yet.
Josie, I'm so sorry to hear
Yeah.
that.
So one of the things you can do if you
I
have
mean,
if you have his clothing, you can, if you know somebody that sews, you can have them make a blanket for you out of
yeah.
his shirts.
Yeah. I had a brother passed away 30 years ago. And I feel like I'm still, sad over his death, because I actually saw him die before my very eyes, which was very difficult for me. And I knew he was dying. It was an accidental drug overdose, and I had to call my mom at the office, and he died. He died right when he got to the hospital.
And I'm sorry for your loss.
Well, thank you, but it was 30 years ago. But sometimes I feel like I'm still grieving and still sad, but it gets easier. But it's like you said in the presentation, you don't ever have what did you say? You don't ever really have to stop grieving, but it's like it's not like I'm like totally thinking about him every single day because it's been so long. But yeah, there are times, especially around the holidays, where it's really difficult. But yeah.
Just know your brother Josie and Carol, your brothers, would be very proud of how far you've come.
And Varian, I have to agree with what Yana said. Your father would be very proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
So this is a poem, and this is a Jewish prayer, actually, that we say this every year when we do a memorial ceremony. It's one of my favorites, so I thought I would share it, and it's called "We Remember Them." At the rising of the sun and at its going down, we remember them. At the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we remember them. At the opening of the buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember them. At the blueness of the skies and in the warmth of summer, we remember them. At the rustling of the leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember them. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember them. As long as we live, they too will live, for they are now a part of us, as we remember them. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember them. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember them. To share, we remember them. When we have decisions that are difficult to make, we remember them. When we have achievements that are based on theirs, we remember them. As long as we live, they too will live, for they are now a part of us, as we remember them. I'm sorry for your loss, Josie. Josie said she had a lot of losses this year. So this is a song called Borrowed Angels by Christian Chenoweth. And it's a beautiful song about those we lost and how they're punished.
touch your life in ways no one has ever done before.
Oh, thanks.
Love a little stronger. They live together best. They make our lives so blessed. So why do they go so soon? The ones with souls so beautiful. I heard someone say there must be borrowed angels here in this life. They come along into this world and make this world bright. They can't stay forever, 'cause they're heaven sent. And sometimes heaven needs them back again. They reach a little deeper. They see what's in your soul. And even when they leave, you know you'll never let them go. The world's a little richer just 'cause they came along. Their love goes on and on. So why do they go so soon? The ones with souls so beautiful. I heard someone say there must be angels here in this life. They come along into this world and make this world bright. But they can't stay forever, 'cause they're heaven sent. And sometimes heaven needs them back again. How else can you explain why they're here and not here today? Oh, I believe there must be borrowed angels here in this life. They come along into this world and make this world bright. But they can't stay forever, 'cause they're heaven sent. And sometimes heaven needs them back again. And sometimes heaven needs them back again.
But that was Kristen Chenoweth, and she was singing at the 9/11 memorial a few years ago. That's her song Borrowed Angels. Well, since we have time, I thought I would share with you a beautiful little girl who was a borrowed angel. Her name was Indy Lou. And she had an intellectual disability, and she was only here for 5 years, but she changed the world. She brought people together.
That's like,
oh, let me start it.
Ever wonder why they call it the American dream and not the American goal?
and we still get messages daily.
A lot of people.
A lot of people.
The letters have poured in by the hundreds.
Dear Tara, Brian, Indy, and Birdie, hi from New Hampshire.
Digital posts typed out by thousands.
Thank you for sharing your lives, hopes, dreams, and strengths with the world.
And if you scroll through the loves and the likes and the shares,
We are in the midst of something great.
oh, it adds up fast with the clicks, literally in the millions. That's right, millions. All all because of one.
I can't tell you how grateful I am for your Indy Lou.
If Indy can do this, I can.
I truly, with every part of my being, that Indy Lou saved my life. She is changing people and inspiring people, and it's the Indy effect.
May 19th, 2016. Little Indy Lou Jones came into this world in answer to countless prayers. Her parents, Brian and Tara, she was a godsend. After 5 years, 2 miscarriages, 1 failed in vitro, and the loss of a twin, this sweet baby girl was about to give her parents
Yeah, it was a shock.
one more surprise.
We expected her to come out one way, and she came out a different way, and so there felt like a disconnect for a minute, like, wait, that's not the baby I just played for 9 months. But then as soon as like we saw her again and we held her, you could just feel her spirit, and you just knew, like, this is our baby, like, this is Indy, and this is how she was supposed to come. And it just all of a sudden was like, whoa.
Every year in the U.S., 1 in 700 babies is born with Down syndrome. And with that extra chromosome comes a list of challenges: intellectual, emotional, physical challenges. And even after doctors discovered 5 holes in her tiny little heart,
Indy. Nice.
Brian and Tara embraced those challenges. And Indy, she acted as though she never even had them.
She was so fun, and like her spirit just from the very beginning was gigantic, and it was contagious. So you just wanted to be around her every second. Go!
Brian and Tara had
So I'm gonna fast forward
a
it.
subtle moment once revealed.
Hospital. I kind of want
By Indy was growing and growing and growing.
So Indy had leukemia, which is cancer.
I don't understand how someone can have an Insta story of Indy eating wild blueberries and watching a show and her giggle going through cancer, how that can change somebody on the other side of the world.
For the better part of a year, she beat cancer. By the looks of it,
Just giggling and making everyone's day, and her little purple walker.
she likely never even knew she had cancer.
She has an effect that I don't know how it happens, but you look at her and you watch her and it changes you.
Hi, Mary Grace. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Across the country and around the world. What is it, 9 o'clock in France?
Yes, it is 9 o'clock in France.
Indy's reach was expanding. Where are you?
I'm from upstate New York.
And if you take a moment to read the posts and the comments, is the Indy effect real?
Oh, yeah.
It is powerful.
Yeah, 100%, 1000%. She pulled me out of a very dark place. I think God used her to pull me out of that place.
When I found their Instagram, I was already in hospital. I kind of wanted to give up a little bit.
I had no faith, like rock bottom in my life.
And I'm like, you know what? This little girl is battling something.
I'm gonna reshare it. But basically, Indy Lou was a little girl with Down syndrome who also had leukemia, which is a form of cancer. And she lost her battle, but on the way, she changed lives.
So much bigger than the problems I have.
If she can do this, if the whole family can do this, with such a smile and strength, I can do it too.
I talked about her being a lighthouse. She was my lighthouse. She saved me. Like, she would save me from those darkest moments.
I'm in a totally different place now, and I'm thriving.
The Indy effect is extremely real. Extremely real. There's no other way to describe it.
Out of the hospital and every reason.
Valenti Auto Group is celebrating our 95th anniversary at Volkswagen of Hartford.
To look up.
It felt like a new beginning, the close of the cancer.
In a matter of 4 years, Indy and her family went through things most will never experience in a lifetime. The lows were pretty low, but the highs,
Are you happy to be at the ocean? Yes.
oh, you couldn't get much higher.
We wanted to get a break from the cancer world, from the hardships we'd been through. We decided to go to Puerto Rico.
9 days on the beach, and they were memorable. And then, on day 10,
We noticed Indy's eye swelling up.
now that moment is unforgettable.
She got really, really sick. She ended up in the hospital down there. Then we found out it was leukemia in the form of tumors along her spine and in her abdomen. And they told us that she probably had 2 weeks.
Tara and Brian will be the first to tell you this third diagnosis did not feel like the others.
This one felt different.
The miracles witnessed before would not look the same.
We started seeing miracles again. They were just miracles of different kinds. She didn't get better, but instead of 2 weeks, we got 6 weeks. And they were pretty good weeks. You know, she just did amazing. She was always so strong and so brave.
I love you.
In her final days, you would never know Indy's little body was filled with cancer. Still laughing, still smiling, still impacting a countless number of people. Inspiring music, inspiring artwork, and even inspiring the voice.
Message goes out to a very special and very strong little girl. Her name is Indy Lou.
Of one of her favorite Disney characters.
I'm Maui. I know. Where's my hair? Listen, kid, I could go on and on. I could explain every natural phenomenon. The tide, the grass, the ground. Oh, that was Maui just messing around.
More than 4 million people responding to this single post. The Indy effect had no boundaries, but the reality was her time on Earth did.
We just wanted her to be free of it. And we could tell from Indy that she was ready to be done.
In the arms of her mother, on the night of June 3rd, 2021, 11 minutes after 11, little Indy Lou Jones quietly left this world. No more hurt, no more pain, no more cancer. On the day Indy was buried, her effect was witnessed one by one by one. They followed in person, they followed online. And if there was ever any question as to the impact this 5-year-old had on the world, just look around.
It's hard to put into words how much Indy has changed my life personally. I get choked up thinking about her.
She shows that there is value to every person, every being, whether you have Down syndrome or cancer, whatever you have, your life is so valuable.
And that is what this day would become. A day of celebrating love and life. A day of smiles and tears. A day that can only be described.
And it became her signature, the Indy effect. It's come full circle now, and maybe the miracle wasn't for Indy to live forever. Maybe that miracle was just to give Indy more time, to give us more time with Indy, and the world more time with Indy. I've asked God that when my time comes, to please let it be Indy that greets me. She's the first person I want to see when I cross over.
Maybe the Indy effect isn't some unexplainable power changing people's lives.
You are true prophets of love and blessing.
Maybe it's smiling in the middle of life's challenges.
An entire healthy life gained because of your sweet girl.
Maybe it's being brave when you're scared.
Thank you for all you have done to make me a better person.
Maybe it's keeping the faith when there's little hope.
And watching your family gave me so much hope at a time when I needed it most.
And maybe, just maybe, it's simply loving others the way that He loves.
Through Indy, this Indy effect, God is bringing His kids back to Him. People that haven't been able to see God or they've been resisting God. So what more purpose is there than that?
Well, that was Indy. I wanted to share her with you because she's a very special little girl. And you'll be happy to know that her parents are expecting another baby, the rainbow baby. They're going to have a baby boy in a few weeks. Anybody else have anything they want to share? Steven, I know you wanted to tell us about your dad. You gotta unmute yourself. There you go.
Yeah, I can hear you. Why couldn't I hear? Why couldn't I tell you about it when we had stuff going on?
Tell them about him now. No.
Why wasn't it not okay?
Because we had.
Oh, because we were doing the presentation, but you can share now.
So what was the presentation like all about? Yana, what was this presentation all about? About grieving?
What
was about with grieving?
Steven, she wants to hear about your dad.
I'd like to know all about my dad.
Tell him about your dad.
I'd like to tell you about my dad. Yana.
Mm-hmm.
There's something I'd like to tell you all about my dad.
What did you guys do together?
We did a lot of stuff going. Let me think about. I'll tell you all what I did stuff.
What do you miss the most about him?
Most about the guitar. Something about the guitars. So I'll tell you all about my dad. That we used to do all that stuff that we used to do all the time. All we do that I like to do the most.
What do you miss?
What did you like to do with your dad?
Doing a lot of activities, some stuff, Handy. All that stuff he's done for me. All that he's done a lot for me.
Like what?
Activities, some leisure, some maintenance, some work.
Boy Scouts.
Some how about Boy Scout guitars? Something all about the guitars.
Oh, is that his guitar in the background?
Background?
Yeah.
Yep.
Guitars. Yep. A guitar business that I used to do a lot of playing the guitar. Playing a lot of guitars. Guitar workshop. We at home around there at home, play out there with a Boy Scout, do some activities more than scouts. Advocacy, some other disability convention. We did a lot with him. Maybe People's First Conference, maybe a long time ago. That I used to do a long time ago. All the things I used to do a lot with him. Yana?
Yep.
Something else that I used to do a lot with him. Some group activities that me and Dad used to go activities, group gatherings, some social activities that and some parties, some group activity gatherings, family group get-togethers, all everything that we used to do. Seeing his family.
Really nice. Just know, Steven, that your dad is proud of you and he's watching over you from heaven. And I'm sending you a big virtual hug.
Yeah. Yana?
Mm-hmm.
We did a lot of stuff around. I'd like to tell you all about him. Okay. Yana? Something about running the guitar works. I used to play the guitars. Playing with the dogs. Doing a lot of long walks with the dog. Yana?
Okay.
Everything.
I'm listening.
We did a lot with dogs, play outside activities, walking, take care of stuff, maintenance, some handiwork he's ever taught me. Did a lot of handiwork. He's taught me how to be a handy guy. In the past, all the things we used to do about with my dad, teach me a lot of things. There's a lot of things he taught me a lot. Apartment house, some real estate, some business, some plumbing, carpentry. He did some of those. Gardening, all that stuff. Gardens, everything, archery, camping, all that stuff, some group, all kinds of stuff we used to do with family.
Yeah, he'd be very proud of you.
A lot of stuff around accomplishments, some school activities, all of that.
Let somebody else go.
Everything that I used to do. I don't know if it'll be the next time. Yana, when will there be a dream like this next time? Hey, Yana?
Yeah, we'll send it out to you.
Yeah, will be like today in the future sometime. When I'm home in Chaplin.
We'll have other presentations.
Chaplin next time. Yana.
Yep.
I'd like to do that with me and my mom or at home in Chaplin next time.
You will. Say goodbye.
Yeah, you will.
Well, we will do it sometimes.
Say thank you.
Yep.
I'd like to do it when we're home in Chaplin, across street from Parish Hill School.
Anybody else want to share anything?
Yana, I just want to say that you did a great job, and so did Varian. And this presentation is amazing. It's beautiful. And I thank you for it. It helps me because I'm going through grief. This month is hard for me.
Oh, thanks. Thanks, Josie. I had a thought, Josie. You know, Build-A-Bear, they can do teddy bears with a voice chip. I don't know if you have you have recordings of your brother's voice. You can have him put in a bear. You can have him with you all the time. You can press on the teddy bear, and you can hear his voice anytime you want.
Thank you for that. Yep.
So I hope that you enjoyed this and it's been helpful. Remember, it's okay not to be okay. And it's okay not to be happy on the holidays. And so it's perfectly okay to speak up for yourself and get help when you need to. And on that note, I hope everybody has a great holiday and a great evening. And we will see you next time. And Rachel will post this presentations once we have the voiceovers put in. This will be posted by Rachel, and this will be posted on the DDS website once we get everything voiced over.
Yeah, thank you for coming, everyone, and happy holidays, and enjoy the holidays.
By the way, I wanted to mention sometimes we feel very sad when a celebrity that we love dies, and that's okay. And don't think it's weird just because you didn't know them. They could have a big impact on your life. I was very sad when Carrie Fisher passed away, and went through grieving when she died, and that's okay too. A lot of people think, oh, it's weird, I didn't know them, but that's okay. So I hope you have a lovely evening, and we will talk soon. Bye, everyone. Sending
Bye,
all of you a
everybody.
big
Thanks for
virtual hug.
coming.